Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Justin Young. He's Josh Tech. Welcome to the Fastbreak Friday on a Thursday, per usual. It is visit season. It is the fall. There are football games. There are college kids on campus, which means, of course, the nation's best basketball prospects are also going to be on campus from coast to coast, north to south, east to west. All the places we've got you covered as usual here on Fastbreak Friday. We're going to go through a number of things. We've got a couple campuses that you got to pay attention to this weekend, a number of key visitors, a number of players that are guys that we know really well from the Hoop Scene Association, some important visitors, some interesting visitors, and everything else in between. Josh Tech, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. This time of year is so much fun. It's just
Yeah.
I'm looking at our database or chart or whatever it is. We have a big chart. We have a big board. I'm looking at it, being like, "What? That guy's going there. This guy's going here. What does that mean for that guy? What does this mean for this?" It's great. It's crazy. My brain's just on a swivel right now.
Yeah, if you're a hardcore junkie, which I'm sure you are because you're watching this, it is a fun time because you can really kind of see the pieces of it all kind of fitting together. That when player A visits school B, what does that mean for player C, and does that impact school D, et cetera? And it's really kind of fun to see like this chess match that goes on in recruiting about when you get somebody on campus and who you bring them on campus with and all the things that kind of go into it. So certainly a lot to keep up with and a lot of fun along the way. So we're going to get into it this week here on Fastbreak Friday on a Thursday. We're going to start with two campuses that you really like, two important campuses. We got a blue blood in a school that I think we always need to keep our eyes on down in SEC country. Let's start in the middle of the country in Bloomington, Indiana. Bloomington, Indiana at IU. The Hoosiers have a huge weekend. Josh Tech, give us an idea of who IU fans are excited about seeing on the mean streets of Bloomington this weekend.
Man, well, first of all, I love Bloomington. I used to live in Indiana, so it's got a special place in my heart. So all my Hoosiers out there, you got 3 top 50 kids coming to town. Yeah. Derek Queen, one of the maybe the best rated center left on the board. Liam McNeely, one of the best shooters, one of the best wing prospects in the class. And then Curtis Givens, one of the best available point guards in the class. This is just a stacked trio. An interesting thing for this one is that they all play at Montverde together. So if you're trying to kind of put your tinfoil hat on and be like, oh, man, maybe hey, you have 3 Montverde kids, 3 top 50 kids. They're all visiting the same weekend. Like, if one commits, that's commitment watch right there. So this is a really big weekend for the Hoosiers. Really big weekend for Bloomington.
Well, I like the Derek Queen one for sure. Liam McNeely obviously is a guy that I think, if you followed anything with college basketball recruiting over the last couple of years, McNeely is a guy that's one of the most versatile guys there is in the country. Yep. And his recruitment's really starting to pick up. All the blue bloods are in there, certainly, and they're with him as well. Curtis Givens is a point guard that we really, really like a lot. Yep. Certainly be fun to watch those pickup games as well. These are not the only 3 guys that are going to be on campus. Obviously, there's going to be some underclassmen and a number of other players, but these are the 3 big ones. With Derek Queen, we've talked about him before. We talked about him last week with the Kansas visit. The IU visit coming up, and I'm trying to think of like all the games that I saw and who was there. Indiana would make a lot of sense for Derek Queen in this big picture too, just the way that they play and their style of play. Anytime you have an old NBA coach, there is a feeling like that flavor of the NBA is all about big guys, right? Like big players, not so much the 5, but bigger players. And we talked about him last week with Derek Queen. There's a dying breed of big men in college basketball. So I feel like he's such a significant add for whatever program gets him. Indiana's no stranger to having great big men as well. Liam McNeely, how close, like what do you, I hate to throw this to you, but like throw me some odds. Do you have any odds on him in IU?
I don't know if I would say odds, but I'll take that and kind of put my own spin on it. I think if I were to be kind of like, if I were to have a crystal ball, it would be the 2 choices for me would be Texas and IU. Like that's kind of where I'm coming down to. I think that I might lean a little bit Texas, and Curtis Givens also just went on a visit to Texas recently. I know Liam McNeely has, deep roots to the state of Texas. That's the only reason I'm kind of leaning in that direction. But if he commits to IU either after this weekend or soon, that wouldn't shock me at all. I think the Hoosiers are really in good shape for this weekend.
Is it weird that when I think about IU basketball, I always think about who's going to look good in the candy stripe pregame kits?
No, because I do the same thing, and I think Liam McNeely would look really good in that.
I did too.
I can picture him so well in those. Like he just gives off such like Indiana vibes to me.
Yeah, I agree. I agree there. Well, big one there in Bloomington. Certainly, we'll keep our eyes on that. I'm sure if you follow anybody on social media, you know the Indiana's going to get a lot of coverage. We'll see what's going on there. Let's move down to Baton Rouge. LSU, huge weekend, which is not surprising because if you've ever gone to an LSU football game, I mean, they really lean into it. I feel like fall, if you can even call the early part of September fall down the south, but fall weekends, I always think of LSU. I mean, always, regardless of the year, regardless of which coach the staff's there. That's a place that I'd want to be if I was a 19-year-old, 18-year-old kid. And there's going to be a lot of those guys walking around campus. Well, high school kids, really, so younger than that, 17. Let's walk through the visitors there at LSU. Go ahead and run through those, Josh.
All right, so we got 4 big-time visitors, 4 top 100 visitors. We got Mikey Lewis, Robert Miller, Vic Miller, and Billy Richmond. I think you and I are high on all of these guys in their own different regard. These are 4 top 100 kids. It's a really big weekend for LSU. One of the biggest weekends of the entire recruiting calendar because you get 4 high-level kids like this on the same visit together. Like that could be another one of those ripple effects where if one comes off the board, they really like their visit with another one. They recruit him. He comes on in. You know, I think the more of these guys can get on campus together, the better it bodes for you for landing multiple top 100 guys, top, whatever kind of guys.
Yeah, I mean, tremendous group coming in. I like Vic Miller here. I'd keep my eyes on that one really closely. The son of Silk the Shocker, the rapper. There's some ties to the state of Louisiana. He's out here near me at AZ Compass Prep, a Southern California native, played out there. Mikey Lewis is also another guy, led the EYBL in scoring at some point during the year, can really get a bucket, really fun guard, really open floor. And the way that Matt McMahon has played in the past, listen, guards have a lot of freedom in that backcourt, so certainly something to watch. Robert Wright, the third, also Robert Miller. Got ahead of myself there. And then Billy Richmond, a guy that I think long-term could be one of the best prospects there is in the class of 2024. So
absolutely
superstar power. One thing to note, Cody Toppert, one of their assistant coaches, a guy that was out visibly recruiting pretty often a lot. I saw him out here in the West quite a bit, took a job as a head coach for the Washington Wizards G League team. So it'll be interesting to see how much that coaching change comes into play there for some of these guys. I don't think it will impact it that much, but certainly anytime you have a coaching change, in September, it's something to note, and especially with a guy like Cody Toppert, who certainly had his hands on a lot of players there at LSU, and even dating back to when he was assistant coach over at Memphis as well. So a lot to kind of sift through there. So Indiana, LSU, really, really strong. Any other campuses that we need to keep our eyes on this weekend?
Yeah, Michigan has 2 top 100 forwards in the 2024 class, and then Malik Thomas, one of the best guards in the 2025 class, coming onto campus. So this is an honorable mention, a shout out to Michigan. We'll get into some of their guys coming up and
sure.
Okay. In the show, so.
Well, let's go kind of through some of these notable visitors. De'Arion Reed, a guy that we've talked about in our rankings episode last week, a guy that we really like a lot. We've had in our top 10 for a long time. So going down to Florida State, which kind of fits the mold of the Florida State recruiting pattern that we've seen. Really versatile wings that come out of the state of Georgia. Florida State's always going to be in there. De'Arion Reed out of Augusta area is going to be now out in the West. That's a prolific prep, is going to make it back to the South, down to Tallahassee to go see the Seminoles. So De'Arion Reed, I would argue the most important prospect that they have on their recruiting board for the class of 2024. They've been on him before his meteoric rise, and they were on him before everybody else kind of jumped on. I like Florida State in this one a lot. I think they're going to be a real player. And I know if you look, listen, and then we talked about this on our ranking show. Like, I don't understand why De'Arion Reed is listed as a 4 on some recruiting sites, and I'm not sure why he's not rated higher. If you look at the pros that have come out of Florida State's program, Leonard Hamilton's coached, De'Arion Reed is a prototype prospect that fits that mold. So I'd keep your eyes on that one really closely here going into this weekend. You talked about Texas earlier. They've got Asa Newell going to be down there on a visit, the big Floridian, really impressive guy. Got to spend a lot of time actually at Florida State's campus, and a player that has a lot of Northwest Florida roots is going to be down in Austin, Texas for a visit. He went to G League United last weekend to take a look at that program and that pro opportunity as well. Texas, no strangers for swinging for the fences this year in the 2024 class, recruiting nationally and really going after it. You know what's interesting, Josh? I do wonder how much does the state of Florida and not like Montverde guys, but just the state, like homegrown prospects from Florida are going to be recruited by the University of Texas moving forward with their conference change. Um, there's there's no secret that Texas is its own powerhouse for recruiting in both basketball and football.
Yeah.
But Florida's right there with them, right? Like always. And we saw Texas A&M recruit the state of Florida, when they moved over to the SEC as well. So that is an interesting one, I think, to keep your eyes on moving forward. Texas can recruit nationally, but I would be interested to see if they go after more homegrown guys out of the state of Florida moving forward too. So
yeah, I could absolutely see that. I mean, you combined the Texas and Florida powers into one program. You got one of the best talent pools ever.
Well, that might be a podcast for a different day, which I'd actually really like to do. Is let's talk about these powerhouse states. Georgia's one of them, obviously California.
Yeah.
A lot of it comes down to population, obviously, but those will be fun ones to have a conversation. Speaking of Florida, the University of Miami coming off a huge commitment weekend with Austin Swartz, a commitment that we love, a commitment that we talked about on the Commitment Catch-Up podcast. But Jaleel Bethea headed down there to Miami. Can they keep the hot streak rolling with commitments and pull this one off?
I would say yes, because of, like we mentioned on the commitment show, just how well they've done with guards. But I wonder, this is one of those ones where the ripple effect comes into play in my head. And I wonder if landing Austin Swartz at all deters Jaleel Bethea from going there, because they're pretty good at the same things, right? They're both bucket getters, both can really shoot it. And I just wonder if one of them's like, or if at this point Jaleel is probably like, all right, I'm going to go visit and maybe I'll pursue other options. But you never know. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have two shooters, right? Like that's never hurt anybody. So
no, Miami's done a pretty good job of that too, of having multiple guys, interchangeable guys. I feel like we do need to put an asterisk on that. We're recording this on September 6th, Wednesday afternoon, early evening. We'll release it on Thursday morning, and of course, the visits really kind of get started on Friday. So sometimes things change between now and then too.
Yeah. One unique thing is reports were that Darion Reed is visiting on Thursday, so the 7th, so the day this comes out. That was just a unique kind of visit date compared to the rest.
Yeah. Some of those schools too, you have a little bit of flexibility in your schedule to get some guys out on campus. Prolific being one of those schools that I think have a little bit of daylight in their calendar.
Yeah.
You mentioned Michigan. Talk about why they were interesting to you.
So they got two of my personal favorite forwards in the 2024 class. Patrick Gongba, he was one of the risers of the spring and summer to me. He had jumped up, significantly in our rankings. Mm-hmm. And then a guy that I've just loved throughout the camp season. So whether it's at, the NBPA Top 100 camp, whether it's at the Under Armour camp I went to, Kenai Ruth's, great player. I mean, both these guys are really impactful, really skilled, can do a lot on the floor, can impact winning in a variety of ways. And I think, if you can get one or both of them at Michigan, that's going to be a significant win.
I wonder if Kenai Ruth's going to see a Musa Diabate highlight package of what they did with him. There are a lot of similarities there with style.
I could see that. And they've done a pretty good job with big guys. I mean, I know Hunter Dickinson isn't there anymore, but I mean, he was a 3-time All-American, or if not, he was close to a 3-time All-American when he was there. So it's not like they don't provide their bigger guys with opportunities. So I think they're going to be doing a lot of, hey, you remember this guy when he was here? Look at the stats he did when these two guys are on campus.
A new wrinkle in recruiting is the photo shoots, right? When guys take campus visits, where now like they encourage, that's part of the trip, part of the schedule. And Michigan, to their credit, they've done such a good job with like their Jumpman collection of getting them in like their little, in-house shoe store, if you will, and getting guys in there. It's always fun. I actually really do enjoy it.
If you're like if you're a forward or a bigger guy, playing for Juwan Howard has to be enticing.
Do you think any kid knows who Juwan Howard is or was as a player, though?
I mean, it's kind of astonishing at this point to I guess, like, think about how far removed Juwan Howard's playing career was from like where he's at now. So maybe some kids are just not as aware, but that their parents are, and that like at some point in time, like they're like at least showing them highlights and like kind of filling them in with like lore and stuff from secondhand. So they might not understand the full magnitude of it, but they're probably being briefed on it.
Would I be rude if I asked you to name the Fab Five to my point? Do guys even know Juwan Howard when he was a player?
I'm not gonna get it. I know that because there's two that I just cannot remember off the top of my head. At least Juwan Howard, Jalen Rose. Oh God,
This is my point. This is my point. I don't know.
Just watched.
Yeah, Chris
I
Webber.
just heard something
Chris
about
Chris Webber, obviously.
Chris Webber. Yeah. There, but the other two, yeah, Chris Webber. Chris Webber to me is like, I know that there's a whole lot there, but like in my head, he kind of feels disassociated with the whole thing in a way, so I forget him because of that.
Sure.
But there was, there was a guy that's on the tip of my tongue.
Jimmy King, Ray Jackson.
Jimmy King. Jimmy King is who I was thinking of. I wouldn't have gotten the last one. Jimmy King is who I was.
That's why I'm like, I don't know if guys really know Juwan Howard,
Exactly.
right? Like a player. Yeah. Even in NBA, like Juwan Howard was a good player, never like a great player. But nevertheless, I understand your point. Parents would. I would hope parents would remember Juwan.
For sure. Yeah.
All right, let's keep it moving. Mississippi State actually is a campus that I think has a really hot weekend.
Yeah.
Rakeese Passmore. Let me go with me on a journey for a second. Have you been watching the World Cup, the USA Basketball and the World Cup? I know it's super early in the morning.
I've been following via highlights more so than actually,
I love it. In large part because I'm a huge Anthony Edwards guy, right? Like Ant's our guy. I was lucky to have a front row seat to the whole Anthony Edwards experience, both high school and collegiate, and I think he's bound for a major breakout season. Love him, super aggressive. And I'm not saying this guy is Anthony Edwards and coming, but there's a lot of DNA in this player's game from Anthony Edwards, and that's Rakeese Passmore.
Yeah,
like a big physical scoring monster that has a ton of confidence. I think Passmore actually is a probably better shooter at this stage than Ant was coming out of high school. But if he wants to get to the rim, Rakeese Passmore can do that. There's a physicality to him that we love. I mean, we've had with like Anthony, we've had a front row seat with Rakeese and his come up, through our preview camps and through a lot of our team tournaments and whatnot. And now he's going to be going down to Mississippi State, taking a visit there. I really like this for the Bulldogs. This is a significant prospect on campus.
100%.
Mississippi State going into this fall. One other guy that's going to be on visit there is Delquan Warren, a guy that I actually think is kind of an underrated player in this class of 2024. Really fun, really energetic. To see those two guys together, that would be a system change for what we've seen down at Mississippi State in a huge way if they both were to decide to go to Mississippi State. So in the weekend where we have a lot of like blue bloods getting some high level visitors, I think Mississippi State is a campus that we really have to get some eyeballs on and pay respect to there as well. One more top visitor for the weekend. I would keep very close watch on this. Sometimes you see players, they have substantially big recruiting lists. Trent Perry out of Harvard Westlake is one of those guys in Southern California. Very good player, one of my favorite players there is in this class of 2024. Honestly, one of my favorite players that I've been able to cover over the last decade. I really like this guy a lot. We talked about him on our ranking show. He's taking a trip to Colorado. And Colorado is significant because Colorado was in there before everybody else was. There's a significant relationship bond there between Trent Perry and his family and the Colorado staff. And Colorado, listen, they've got Cody Williams there. Like they can go out there and get guys. And they've recruited pros. They've cultivated pros. And Colorado now with Deion Sanders there, there's a different brand awareness. Not that I think that impacts basketball recruiting at all, but I do think that Colorado is a real player here for Trent Perry. He's taken another trip back to Boulder. He's been there before. I think this is a significant one, and it wouldn't shock me at all next week when we do our commitment catch-up that Trent Perry could be a Buffalo. I don't have any inside information to say that's going to happen, but it wouldn't shock me at all to see that going down moving forward. And then really that may trigger a story for me because like Colorado, if we like walked it back over the even just during Tad Boyle days, like the amount of pros that have come out of that program, I think people will be surprised by how many guys have gone pro out of Colorado.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you and I both agree that we would kind of give that last 5-star spot to Trent Perry because we both love him so much. And like, we think that he's going to be a fantastic college player. So this is a huge one for us. I mean, I know that we're both big fans. And then I think you're right that Colorado, just as a brand itself, does have a certain kind of je ne sais quoi with the Deion Sanders story that goes there. They just have a different kind of buzz about them. And I do think that radiates throughout campus to some degree. I mean, it may not be like a deciding factor, but yeah, I mean, it at least gets it kind of elevates the perception of Colorado athletics.
I would love to be a fly on the wall for a Tad Boyle, Deion Sanders conversation. It'd be really, really funny. Did you watch that football game, by the way, with TCU in Colorado?
I saw like the thing, the rounds on Twitter, like circulating and stuff like that.
We were doing our fantasy draft, live draft in person, and we had the game on. Like we stopped so many times in our draft to watch the game. It was an unbelievable game.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. I think the last time, man, the last time I watched Colorado football like that might have been when Eric Bieniemy was running back. You don't even know. I'm way showing my age at this podcast today.
I think I'm also showing my age and all that. But I mean, so it goes.
That's all right. It's okay. Well, there's some really good ones there this weekend. That's some of our top visitors that we really like. Let's go through the Hoopsing Association watch. Some of our best guys from the league are taking some really significant visits coming up. Josh, go ahead and run through those for us if you can.
Yeah, so we got one of one elite forward wing, Jayan Walker, going to Georgia State. Shout out Panthers. Shout out Georgia State. So he's coming to my backyard for a visit. That's gonna be a one to watch. A guy that has been like perpetually on hoop scene, standout players, top performers, awards, any kind of accolades, awards you can give out. Isaiah Otialik, no guts, no glory. He's going on a visit to Chattanooga. Again, hey, my backyard. So, I mean, that's one to watch as well, obviously. And then our guy, Sebastian Akins, he's going on a visit to Winthrop. They were one of his earliest offers. So that's, one to monitor. Sebastian did just get offered by Arizona State recently. So there's a lot in play there, just to say, at least.
Yeah, a lot of those one-on-one guys, one-of-one guys got a lot of Arizona State offers. This week. Yeah, I think all those, like when we think back to our events, all three of these schools were present. All three of these schools were not only in the spring, but in the summer. They've been recruiting all these guys for a long time. So I'm happy to see for these guys getting out there, taking these visits. And again, all these schools are really significant schools too, contenders in their own conference. There's opportunity for these guys. So certainly good visits for each of them coming up.
Yeah. This is a list of schools that just feels like NCAA tournament schools,
Yeah, or on the cusp of it. Like it's right there. It's happening.
Yeah.
Just a player like one of these guys is come in there and go do that as well. Let's pivot to commitment watch. Like there's a number of guys. I think this will happen more and more as we get deeper into the visit season. But commitment watch, give me some players that you wouldn't be surprised if they left the weekend committed, or even on Monday morning, getting their graphic put together for an announcement.
Yeah. So we saved him for this category because he would obviously be one of the top visitors, but we knew he was coming down the pike.
Sure.
That's Boogie Fland, one of the best available guards in the 2024 class. He's taking a visit to Kentucky. If anybody on earth takes a visit to Kentucky, they are on commitment watch. I mean, there is nobody other than maybe John Shire and Duke that seals the deal better than John Calipari in Kentucky. So like Boogie Fland going there is all eyeballs on that. Like I'm not saying I don't have any intel on that. I don't have any kind of reason to believe that he might commit other than it's Kentucky. Like, that's one of those brands that carries so much weight that you wouldn't be surprised if anybody visited Lexington and committed on the spot.
Well, he's also one of the guards that has the skill set that John Calipari loves.
Yeah, 100%. Like it all makes sense.
It all makes sense. Yeah, it all makes sense. It's definitely one of those guys as well. Arkansas has Jalen Shelley out of Texas coming back for a visit, second time there to Fayetteville. Again, we talked about LSU being a place synonymous with great fall weekends. I got to be honest, I've said this forever. Fayetteville, Arkansas, to me, is one of the best college campuses there is in the country. It's a really fun place to be on a college Saturday. It's a beautiful place. If there's a game going on, it's unbelievable. Dixon Street, so much fun. I really like Fayetteville, and obviously you'd be dumb to say that Muss isn't like absolutely turning that place into a place where people want to go and be a part of it. And so Jalen Shelley, a top 100 guy out of Texas, is going to be taking a visit. The Texas to Arkansas pipeline has always been strong, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon. You've got another guy on the list here, another local guy down at Sandy Creek in Ford, Micah Smith. We talk about him every week now on Fastbreak Friday because he's out there visiting. But he's going right down I-75 down to Mercer for a visit. You think that's a commitment watch as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Sandy Creek has spent a lot of time playing in the state championship. They just won one. I mean, so he's pretty familiar with the city. But yeah, I mean, local guy, local-ish school, in-state school, and I mean, I know that Mercer had been recruiting him very heavily throughout June and probably prior to June. So this one is just one that's kind of feels like a no-brainer. Like if Micah Smith commits to Mercer on the spot or like, shortly after, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I don't think he's taking very, very many more visits after this. So that's always kind of something to look into. Like,
Sure.
It almost seems like, all right, end of the road. I kind of have my list of schools that I want to go to, and usually the last one almost feels like it's the one that I would always lean to.
I like it. I like it a lot. Let's wrap things up here on Fast Break Friday with some interesting visits, ones that make you go, "Oh,
yeah,
okay, that's interesting."
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one that intrigues me the most is you got to go to Lawrence, Kansas. They're bringing in 7-footer Emmanuel Steven, and the reason this is so intriguing to me is they've already got Flory Badunga. Last weekend they had Derek Queen on campus, and that was kind of telling because it showed that Bill Self isn't afraid of going after multiple big men in this class. They've already got our number 1 ranked big man, our number 1 ranked center. They were going after our number 2 ranked center, and now they're going after another top 100 center. So it just shows that Bill Self's trying to bolster his front court, and I just think that's really interesting to see how this whole thing plays out.
I remember the first time I saw Emmanuel Steven, I was up in Salt Lake, and there's a really fun event there that I go to every year, the Great Western Classic. And I remember seeing, I was like, who in the world is this guy?
Yeah.
Right. Like what a physical presence there is. Really makes you stop and look twice. And if he goes to Kansas, I always thought Emmanuel Steven, just because of sheer size, was going to be a player that certainly warranted some eyeballs from NBA scouts. But he goes to Kansas. I'm taking the guarantee that he's an NBA draft pick if he goes there.
I saw him at Peach Jam. I saw him have a game where he blocked 14 shots.
Yeah. Sounds like my old high school reel. I'm going to say keep an eye on Washington State. So what's interesting about what's going on in Pullman, right? Like Washington State is kind of a house with no street right now, right? The Pac-12 is now Pac-2 with Washington State and Oregon State. It sucks because, like, I'm a Pac-12 guy, right?
Yeah.
Like an Oregon guy. I went there. I love that league, and it's sad to see like everything that's happened there. But Pullman, man, I don't know what to think about what's going to happen. So it's interesting to me that Washington State has recruited very, very well. Yeah. I like the way that they've identified players, and they've got 2 really important commitments coming up this weekend. The first one mostly being JJ Mandaquit. So his mentor, JJ Mandaquit's from Hawaii. He's now at Utah Prep. Tremendous season with the Utah Prospects. He's played for Team USA. His stock is really, really high right now. But Derek Lowe, former great at Washington State, has kind of mentored JJ and really kind of opened the doors years ago. Like, hey, you guys need to recruit this kid on the come up, and that now JJ Mandaquit's going to take an official visit there. Significant visitor for the Cougars there in Pullman. Also going to be joining him is Jaden Stepp out of Tualatin High School out of Metro Portland. Tremendous at Section 7, a really good, versatile guy, hard-playing guy, a 3-time state champion at Tualatin High School. So one of the Pacific Northwest very, very best players that there is. So Spokane area is going to be bopping with what things going on at Washington State. So I want to get them a little bit of love, a little shout out here on Fast Break Friday. So, man, a lot to do. Of course, if you're reading this on hoopsy.com, we have a ton more visitors right down below. You want to go check those out. We'll have a lot more coming up as well. So if you have any other thoughts, make sure you leave in the comments below here on YouTube, or tweet at us or reply at us, or whatever the verbiage is here on Twitter/X, or whatever we're calling this thing nowadays as well. So we'll do this again. Fast Break Friday every Thursday, which we record on Wednesday. I know it's confusing.
I like it.
But it definitely is that recruiting as a 24-hour-a-day kind of gig, and we certainly have you covered here, hopefully every week here in the fall for visit season. For Josh Check, I'm Justin Young. We appreciate you watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, retweet, repost, do all the things. I don't know what they are anymore. I'm losing my mind. We'll see you next week.